Hey everybody, welcome into Game Time with John Eads. I am very excited for this episode. We got another awesome guest lined up for you. We've been trying to make this work for a while, but he's a very busy man. He's been out of town, he's working on projects, but kind enough to offer us some of his time today, which I very much appreciate. Jordan Arcement. Did I say that correctly? I got it?
You said it right, man. Just
excellent.
Some Cajun stuff, by you.
I've been here for like 2 years. I'm still trying to adjust to making sure I say them correctly. I remember there were some names the first year I was here. The last name it looks like Richard, but it's Richard, right?
Yep.
Add a little flair to it.
A little flavor, man. That's Louisiana.
I like it. So Jordan Arcement, and he recently was promoted. He works for LSU football, has worn some different hats over there. Obviously, it's a big enterprise, a lot of different responsibilities to be divvied up among the staff, and it's a well-oiled machine, has been for many years. So his old title was Director of
Player Development,
and now it is Director of Recruiting Communication and External Relations. So obviously kind of broad, I guess, in what exactly that is. But first of all, congratulations on the promotion. Very well deserved.
Thank you.
Done some great work with the program. I guess, what are your responsibilities now?
Yeah, with the title of Director of Player Development, I did deal with our team a lot, So I love the relationships with the guys and spending time with them and kind of that mentor role. But the truth of the matter was, whenever NIL was evolving the first go around, it was still pretty gray with being able to put the pieces together for that type of job. So player development was an easy title to go with. But I had been dealing with the NIL landscape really since the evolution, prior to even being at LSU. So now, with this title, it just allows me to still work in that space, but also, still be involved in the recruiting process and obviously relationships in the community. I'm from Louisiana and know a lot of people around here, so it's great to be able to, I guess, walk with pride with the LSU logo and visit with some people I've been knowing since I've grown up, and they help us a lot, and we couldn't do what we do without the community.
So you wear a lot of different hats. The title would suggest that. I want to run through your background and then tie that into your current job because it is important, I think. So you grew up in Thibodaux,
Louisiana.
Yes.
Born and raised. Growing up, I lost my father. My mother raised me by herself. She still is yet to remarry or date or anything like that. I stayed in Thibodaux and went to Nicholls State, played football there. Had some injury while I was in school. Didn't really know why I was playing football because of the injury. It was a tough deal, and it takes a while, but most times it comes full circle in time whenever you trust and believe, and God had a plan for me and then put me in position to be able to help a lot of young men. I coached high school football for a few years where I met Dontavian Martin, and he became family to me, went off, played at Washington State, Oklahoma State, in the NFL. Actually recently had a little bit of an injury and has to rehab, just a hamstring deal, so got waived. So he is a free agent. So if anybody watching, needs a hell of a receiver, he's available. I actually am the guardian of his little brother Zay, who just finished up at U-High and is a qualifier, which I'm really proud of him, what he did with his grades. And he's off to Jones Community College, which he'll be eligible to leave in December, which is exciting for him. But anyway, after coaching high school, I knew I wanted to do something else. I was dealing with Tay's process, and it was super exciting and super interesting to me. And my former coach, Justin Anderson, became the director of player personnel at Virginia, and he had a job opportunity for me. And I got into this landscape as a personnel guy, a scout, a film evaluator. But I was just coming from a coaching background and a playing background, so obviously had some understanding of the sport. And at that point, I really wanted to make a niche for recruiting. I just always been passionate about people, and especially people from my state, But it doesn't limit me to Louisiana. Obviously, I enjoy recruiting coast to coast because there are people in different cultures who are really interested, and when they mesh with our Louisiana flavor, it turns to a gumbo, So yeah, at Virginia, really kind of made a niche for recruiting. Brought some Louisiana guys there. I had some help. Coach Ricky Brumfield was also from Louisiana, but we brought a gang of them, and it allowed me to kind of have a platform, to show what I could do from a recruiting perspective. But NIL was coming down the landscape, right? So as it was coming down the landscape, Tay, who I spoke about earlier, was in his senior year at Oklahoma State, and I was learning a lot about the off-the-field business from an agent perspective. Really because I wanted to put the best team around him, and then as COVID happened and we didn't have as much going on, I'm just taking calls and learning. People were trying to attach to UVA and help us with this NIL landscape, but I learned a lot, So I ended up saying, man, I put so much time in with Tate. He's family to me. I'd love to watch him in his senior year, and left after the season of COVID and spent a year as an entrepreneur, started a business around NIL, helped Shock Doctor start their first 7-on-7 circuit. We actually shot a movie about recruiting, which is Blue Chippers. Is actually, you can stream it for free on Tubi right now. Just was on a few other streaming services, but cool, and it gives a background of this recruiting process. But as Tay was going to the NFL, right, as soon as he got on a team, a door opened for me, right, and it was LSU's John Randall Belton calling me and saying I should come back. I should come back to college football and come work at LSU. And I actually brought JR to UVA, right?
Oh, okay.
So JR and I have been working together for some time. We met when he was a student worker at Louisiana Tech and was the interim director of player personnel for real, you know what I mean, or director of recruiting, whatever you wanted to call it at that time. And Joe Sloan was the OC there. Blake Baker just left being the DC there. So it's just kind of small world how it all works out. But, coming to LSU and operating in that recruiting capacity was cool. And then Coach Kelly, I think, saw the NIL background as he got to know me and put me in position to be able to help in that regard. So as we launched the first collective, we all kind of banded together to do what we could, you know what I mean, and bridge this gap. And I think now with how NIL has evolved again, in addition to Austin Thomas, which he's been awesome, and Coach Frank Wilson, I'm just so thankful for him. He's been a mentor to me. But, I know that's a mouthful, but it's kind of how we got to here.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a long road, and it's hard to encapsulate. How old are you now?
I'm 34. I just turned 34.
It's hard to encapsulate 34 years in just a couple minutes, but I just think it's interesting the career route that you've taken and how you've gotten to this point. I think it's important to establish that, especially your Louisiana roots.
Yeah.
You mentioned JR. JR's great. I've spoken to him. He's got strong Louisiana ties.
He does, North Louisiana.
Mm-hmm. Played at Louisiana Tech. He was a quarterback, right? Had some injuries, but he's found a new avenue. Same as you, right?
No doubt.
Injuries, you find a new path.
No doubt, yeah. And injury is tough, and athletes, I think, not everybody understands what an athlete goes through, right? The pressure of being the one for your family, the pressure of overcoming injury, right? The pressure of social media, the pressure of playing against in front of hundreds of thousands of people. And I think just the cruel world that we live in and the lack of understanding that despite how big and strong these boys look, they're still young men, you know what I mean? And it comes with a lot of scrutiny, and we've seen recently, obviously with the passing of Kyron Lacey, how crazy mental health, how crazily important mental health is. And I think there's just this combination of mental health and mental performance that can be combined in something that, something that we can do moving forward just to continue to bring awareness to it, right? It was just such a sad deal, but there are a lot of pressures in this. So, being a part of these young men's lives and being able to help them, I overcame growing up. I said my father passed, he committed suicide, right? That was a really, really challenging thing for me. And then I had 5 surgeries on my left leg, you know what I mean? And again, I didn't know why these things were happening, but now as, stuff are happening in these young men's lives and I'm able to be there, you know what I mean? And I really want to be there more. I mean, the death of Kyron, I'm just being transparent. It really made me just want to be super aligned in what's my purpose, you know what I mean? Because a lot of times in life or in business, we chasing something, you know what I mean? And maybe it's a title, maybe it's a check, maybe it's, I don't know, approval, you know what I mean? And sometimes in doing that, I think you can get pulled just a little bit away, from where it started. And for me, it always been about people, you know what I mean? And it always been about ball, and the business aspect comes, with it. But in the same time, I just want to be aligned in my purpose, in my calling, and what God wants me to do. And if that, is being there for these young men, you know what I mean? So I'm trying to do my best moving forward to put myself in position to do that.
Seems like you're right in the middle of it. And you've been doing it for years. You mentioned Tay and Zay. You kind of found them, right, and took them on as people that you mentored, and you were their legal guardian, I guess, at least Zay's legal guardian, right?
Zay's not Tay, and shoot, I didn't find them, they found me, I guess. Yeah. I don't know, I just popped in their life, man, and I think it was God, they just lost their mother, and I was coaching Tay his senior year.
At Edie White?
No, at Ellender. I coached at Edie White.
Yeah,
I coached at Edie White right when I finished playing.
Because that's where you went to high school.
That's where I went to high school, then college at Nichols, and then right when I finished up, I just really didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was like, let's try coaching. I love football. It's always been just my passion. And as I coached Edie White for 2 years, and then some of my former teammates were taking over the program at Ellender, and they're like, man, you need to come, and I'm saying, but I didn't even know if that's really what I was gonna do. I was trying to find a job. I didn't trying to find myself. You know what I mean? And I decided to take the job, and I saw Tay, and and I found out he had just lost his mother because I lost my father. I think it just kind of brought us together some. You know what I mean? And he asked for help in his recruitment process, and that's where it started. And they have a great family. You know what I mean? Both of them do, and I support them. And Zay just, where it was with his particular situation, whenever the storm happened, it just tough times fell, you know what I mean? And the stars aligned, and he was able to come live with me in Houston, and he was in the Woodlands for like a few weeks, which was just super culture shock for him. And then LSU's door opened, and, I asked if he wanted to come back to Baton Rouge. He was pumped up about coming back to Louisiana. And he, like we said earlier, he just finished U-High, and again, super proud of him, man. Both of those guys, they've just come such a long way, grown so much, and it hasn't been just me who poured into them. You know what I mean? They have a support system who are their biggest cheerleader. So excited for both of their future.
Hey, you mentioned Tay played at Washington State and Oklahoma State, and now is trying to find his way in the pros. And Zay is finishing up at U-High. I guess they finished up school recently. And
he's actually at graduation practice right now.
There you go. And then he's on his way to Jones, play a little football, and try to see if he can open up some more opportunities down the road.
No doubt.
So a lot of football in his future, it seems. So just a great story there. I remember that's the first time I met you was at one of Zay's games at Woodlawn over there, when the field was very muddy, and it was a Saturday.
The slop fest. We need a turf field, Baton Rouge. We need a local turf field, man. We need a local turf field. I don't know who needs to hear it, but let's get a local turf field, man. So for weekends like that, we can split it up between Friday and Saturdays and have everybody play on a good surface. These boys deserve that, man. They work hard.
It's tough here, though. Even the turf over at Parkview, week 1 this year when Parkview was hosting Dunham and Elijah Haven, it was like there were puddles everywhere. So it's just tough in Louisiana.
True story. The weather is unpredictable.
You know that better than me. You've been here a lot longer. So did you get hired to LSU before Brian Kelly? Was that 2021, or was it at the very beginning of the Kelly era?
It actually was the very beginning of the Kelly era. We talked about JR and I's relationship a little bit earlier, but, he's my best friend, man. He's a great dude. He's going off to be an athletic director. I know he's going to achieve that. When I met him, like I said, he was at interim in Louisiana Tech. Then he came up to Virginia with me, but then I left, right? I left and I went to start a business and did what I did for a year. But in the midst of that, his name got hot. I think he even accepted a job somewhere and before LSU, and then LSU offered him the job. He took it. He was a director of scouting, I think, in his first year. But whenever Coach O moved on, JR remained. He was one of the fighters. He was one that held tight, and I think Coach saw something in him. You know what I mean? Saw what we were all seeing as he just recently became the director of football operations. So excited for him. But during that time, whenever he was retained, he became a director of recruiting then, right? And as he became a director of recruiting, he had some autonomy. Coach was leaning on him, and who can we bring on? You know what I mean? And I was blessed enough that he wanted it to be me, and we worked well together. You know what I mean? I loved working with him, still do, and rooting for that guy. But yeah, since Coach been here and going into year 4 now, which is it's crazy. Time flies.
Yeah, it does. You think about all the things that you've done in the past couple of years, but when you zoom out a little bit further, it's like, man, it really has been only like 3 years or so. It's just, you're doing a lot of things on the day-to-day. It's just zips right by.
No question.
But with JR's hiring and your hiring and a lot of the people on this staff, it seems like Coach Kelly's vision the day he got here was to make this thing Louisiana, right? Like build it around the state, the people on the staff, the players they're bringing in. Have you kind of seen that buy-in the 3-4 years you've been here?
Yeah, no doubt. I've been really – I'm really impressed by Coach Kelly. He's really versatile. You know what I mean? He's not just he has a great football mind, but he's not just a football guy. You know what I mean? He understands business. He understands people. And I think when understanding those two things, you understand that you always have to be fluid and adapt. And when he got here, I don't think he, even though all of the success he's had in his past, you know what I mean? he didn't get here and say, this is my way, this is how we do it. Now his process, how we're organized, that's that's Brian Kelly. That's him. That's his framework. You know what I mean? In the flow of things. You know what I mean? He real CEO. Like that is what he is. You know, but with understanding Louisiana is a different place. You know, and you'll hear people talk about recruiting the state is different. It's a relationship based place. You know, so. I think that the greatest thing that he did was hire Coach Frank Wilson, you know what I mean, and who's you know, the godfather of Louisiana recruiting, and in my opinion, the best recruiter in the nation, you know. So when he did that, and then obviously JR, North Louisiana Ties, and then myself and a gang, you know, a few other folks, you know what I mean, who have, you know, we have Coach Raymond now from Lafayette, Coach Brad Davis, Baton Rouge, you know, and sorry if I'm forgetting anybody, you know what I mean. My boy Donovan played with me at Nickel State, you know what I mean. So again, ton of ties. So yeah, it's been fun.
And that really helps, like when you're going to these high schools, to have people that are from here and that understand the culture here, right? That really can make a difference in winning a recruiting race and not.
No doubt. And when recruiting, you've got to identify who's the one, right? Who's the champion, and in each family it could be different, right? Sometimes it might be the high school coach, sometimes it might be the uncle, sometimes the mama, sometimes it's the dad. But you have to hit everybody, you know what I mean? And it starts with the high school coach. Because that's where it always began. You know, that's who's raising them up right now. You know what I mean? So to get the opinion of those high school coaches and to have great relationships with those guys, like that's why we have the coaches convention. You know, that's why we wrap our arms around them. That's why whenever it's time to hit the road, we go in those schools and spend that time, because relationships matter. You know what I mean? And their opinion, their voice matters. You know what I mean? We want to know that guys work hard. What type of person are you? You know what I mean? It's way bigger than how athletic are you. You know, especially with this transfer portal era, especially with this NIL era, you know, you got to identify the person, the people. Who are they? Who's their family? You know what I mean? And a lot of times, those high school coaches and even park ball coaches, 7-on-7 coaches, they pave the way, but also give us that feedback to know, is the lemon worth the squeeze? You know what I mean? Because sometimes with this recruiting deal, you know what I mean, it gets competitive, right? We just want to out-recruit Texas, out-recruit Bama, whoever it may be. And you might look past some of the red flags, but you got to be aware, man. You got to be aware of those red flags, especially now, right? Because the average time they're with us is probably 2 years. You know, it's just a quick turnaround portal and everything else. So anyway, you know, it's different place, but a great place.
Well, you guys have done this a couple of years now, dealing with the portal. How does that factor into the high school recruiting? And it seems like the process has changed a little bit over the past couple of years, especially this year. You bring in the number one portal class. There's more money involved, right, NIL-wise and things like that. I guess, how is the process maybe different in 2025 than it was in 2022 or 3?
Boy.
Opening up a big can of worms.
You know what I mean? NIL's evolved so much, man. Like, you know, when I left college football to operate in the NIL space, the rules at that point was just true marketing deals. You know, the college wasn't supposed to be able to get involved. Agencies weren't supposed to be able to get involved. It quickly evolved from that to letting the colleges kind of be involved, having a third-party entity called a collective, right, operate and still doing true marketing deals. Then agents were able to be involved, right? So that was just a change there, and then it became a race, like who can build the largest collective, and that becomes the schools essentially cap or your own budget, right? But they had no cap, so it got a little wild, and again, still being able to do marketing deals, you know what I mean? So the flow of money continued to climb, and then now, you know, as we're trying to reel it back in a little bit, it feels like, you know what I mean? And we're going rev share, which the rev share model kicks off in July, which will be here soon, and each school in our conference will get a little bit over $20 million. Football will get 75% of that, and that'll be your cap, right? But I think now the race will be how to beat the cap, you know, and it did kind of go downhill all the way to the high school, you know, NIL. And some states passing legislation to say high school kids can do NIL deals if they are marketable enough, and businesses will want to get involved. And it just so happens Louisiana is one of those states, you know what I mean, which I think our boys are lucky. And I think, you know, what we're lucky about as LSU is, you know, no offense to anyone else, including the Saints, but we're the show, you know what I mean? So people love them some LSU football, you know, and from a business perspective, whenever we do well, businesses do well, you know, so us winning on the field and us winning on a recruiting landscape matters. And, you know, I've even been hearing, you know, people creating the marketing companies to attach to, you know, athletes and then local businesses, because businesses are seeing the value of an athlete who does commit to LSU, and the analytics they get on social media and the drive they get to their company, and really the return they get on their investment. So Voyager Brands, Voyager Sports, right? That's what you'll kind of, I think, start seeing some more of soon as this thing kind of settles. In June 1, some stuff will pop off, and I think excited for the boys in our state because they can capitalize on that. Excited for the boys on our team with this rev share model because they're just kind of, there's money and it's there every year, and there was money already, and this last year with us signing the number 1 transfer portal class, it was because of all the support in our community. I mean, we got a ton of support because we had to bridge the gap, like we saw where we were, we saw what it took to win, and going into year 4, I think we have no choice but to win, and that's the beauty. That's the beauty of LSU. That's why we work here. That's why people come here, because on our board we have the championship already like that date is on the wall. We're not preparing to play in that. Like that is what we want to play in. It's the standard. We have to, that's the last coaches to come here, they win championships. That's what Coach came here to do. Coach left a place where he was averaging 10 wins a season to come down here. Why? Because of all of the talent that we have in this state and the talent that we can attract and the fan base that we have and the community that we have, the donors we have, the ones that got involved to bridge this gap and allow us to sign the number 1 portal class. So we do have some talent. We're a talented team, and anytime you have a quarterback come back for that year or two, I think you're in good shape. I think Garrett is going to have a heck of a year, and I'm excited for him, and we lost some talent, Will Campbell going number 4 in the draft, but we got some studs to be able to step up and replace him, I'm excited for a young Weston Davis who was a 5-star coming to us, and excited for Big Will as well, over there in Boston, man. I got a chance to, lucky enough to see him go through that process, right? So anyway, excited for those dudes, excited for our season, excited for our fan base.
What are you up to? What's kind of your responsibilities this time of year?
Oh, this time of year, coaches on the road, and they're out and about and they're recruiting, man. So I've got a ton of stuff going on, from assisting them in that regard to communication with the boys to, even selling Brian Kelly's NIL, man, and just to help save us on budget. And we did some stuff with some private travel to help save us on budget there as well. But just trying to help, just helping any way I can to stay innovative and stay in the community and continue to build with our boys and with the recruiting side of things and the guys that we're bringing in. And but again, just trying to provide value any way I can.
And the players themselves are kind of doing player-led practices for the summer and getting ready for fall camp, basically. That's kind of their calendar.
Little downtime in May for those guys. We finish spring ball, they finish exams, give them a second, and then some are in the facility working out, others are working out elsewhere, but staying active, getting their bodies right, getting their mind right, get here in June, and it kicks off, man, in June for those guys. They start working their tail off just in preparation for fall camp, and that's when we have a ton of camps, right? We have recruits coming on campus every day. We have in prospect camp 7-on-7, which hopefully we see a lot of guys, come on and see us and get worked out. I think competing there is just the very best way to get an opportunity to play for us, and not just play for us, but we have the schools throughout the whole state who will be present. So guys showing up and competing at our prospect camp and getting worked out by your coach, Why wouldn't you want to get worked out by your coach? It's an interview process on both sides. Some guys tend to not camp anymore as they start to get older. But, shoot, if I'm about to go play for somebody, I got to make sure he can put his hands on me and get me to where I'm going. And I think at camp you get to see that, right? You get to see that it's not just the classroom. It's not just talk. It's actually being coached. So I want those dudes to come compete. And then July, as a staff, for the most part, we get some downtime. Our strength staff really kicks in, man. Those dudes take over in July and get these dudes built up for fall camp, and then we all return at the end of July and then rocking and rolling fall camp, baby, and shoot, it'll be a long season.
Yeah, all systems go. You hope that it's August to basically the end of January.
No question.
Timeline, right?
No question. And even then, with the calendar sped up in January, coaches are in home visits, and we have like transfer portal is still alive. So through January, we still rolling, man. We get February get a little break. March kind of starts that spring ball.
Yeah, the calendar's pretty wild. Like,
listen, something else, baby, something else.
But you're either cut out for it or you're not, right?
Yeah, no doubt. You gotta love this stuff, man. Football's got to be your passion. You got to feel like there's some purpose behind it. You got to feel like making a difference. And I think we got a good group, we got a good staff, and that's what everybody wants to do. And collectively trying to build up young men, trying to graduate champions. I want to see these dudes, walk across the stage and get a diploma, and then walk across that other stage like Big Will just did, and shake the commissioner's hand, and have that life-changing moment, answering that phone and crying because you potentially just change your whole family's life. So good stuff.
Yeah, I like the direction. I like the graduate champions, and hopefully they can graduate with a national championship trophy this year. That's the goal.
Yeah,
so
no doubt. Need some jewelry.
Oh yeah. Anything I didn't ask you about you want to touch on before we wrap up?
Oh,
there's
man.
a lot that we could talk about. I feel like we touched a lot of it. So
No, I think that we did, man. And if there's anything else that comes up, come on back through it and chop it up with you, man. I appreciate you having me on. Appreciate the work you do in the community. Appreciate you shedding light on these young athletes. It's helpful for them. It's helpful for us. So when everybody wins, they say that's a good deal. You know what I mean? So keep on making a difference, man.
I appreciate that.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you for your time.
No doubt.
I know we've been talking about this for a while, and you're busy. You're all over the place, but I was glad to get you into it.
Ripping and running, baby.
Yeah. You love your job. I love my job, and I think we're contributing to something that's really good in the grand scheme of things. So I appreciate what you do as well here and for the kids, Zay, Tay, and a bunch more that a lot of people probably don't see. So you're doing great stuff too, man.
Yes, sir. Well, until next time.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching. Jordan Arcement, you'll see him on the sidelines. You probably already have. You just haven't put the name to the face. Now you've got it, and we'll hope to have him on sometime soon. LSU football getting ready for hopefully a big 2025 season, fall camp starting in just a couple months. We'll see you next time.